You're commuting home with Katz and Cosby. Now, here's John Katzimatidis and Rita Cosby on 77 WABC.
We have Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer. He is president of Project Sentinel, former Army intel officer. Tony, before we get started about Iran, Iraq, I have to bring this up. Judge Weinberg and George and John were all talking about this earlier. I don't know if you saw this. We're talking about Waltz. Tim Waltz, of course, who's on the ticket. Turns out he's got sort of a Reverend Wright in his background as we're talking about Iran and Israel. Judge, fill him in on this cleric who's tied to, who is praising October 7th.
Hey, Judge.
Well, hi, Tony. Welcome back. Yeah, there's a cleric who's very close to Governor Waltz, and they actually go to a lot of events together. You support him. He said that when October 7th happened, it was a wonderful day. It was a wonderful event. He supported it. He hangs out with pro-Hitler groups and tapes. I mean, so I don't understand what kind of vetting was done by the Harris people and letting this guy be a candidate for the vice presidency of the United States. The last thing we need is a vice president of the United States who is a pro-Hamas sympathizer. What are your thoughts?
Judge, I think he was picked for that very issue. I mean, look, they could have gone with Josh Shapiro, but he's got the problems. He's moderate, and he's a Jew. I mean, this is Van Jones on CNN saying this. Van Jones said, anti-Semitism is now marbled into the Democrat Party. And I'm quoting him directly. So what you're seeing here is the natural expression of Kamala Harris and what she wants. And look, she also picked him, I think, because he's a quote-unquote veteran. You all know, you all have known me as a group for a long time. My military service I'm proud of, and I refer back to. I don't use it as a tool to benefit me politically. That's what the left does with their veterans. They use them as almost an artifact that helps justify and give them some level of credibility. So I think they really thought, Judge, that bringing this guy in as a quote unquote veteran who had served 24 years in the Guard, who lied about his service, abandoned his men. He was the senior enlisted guy, abandons his men before they go to combat, and then tries to benefit from the title politically. So it's all about image. It's not about reality. And to your point, the idea that we would have two of the most radical individuals, and I'm nonpartisan. I love my liberal friends who cherish free speech, who cherish the idea of allowing people to be anything they want to be. This is not it. This guy has got also ties with China, which are very questionable. He's been going to China for the past 20 years.
He picked the anniversary, Tony Shaffer. Yeah. He picked the anniversary of his wedding to be in sync with Tiananmen Square, where 10,000 people were killed. I mean, that's bizarre.
Yeah. Well, it speaks to his character. And there's a number of other things which are inconvenient about his character, which I think are going to become more and more prominent. I don't think this guy is going to be able to shake off all the negative information that you brought up that we're talking about now. I think this is going to be something that actually drags down Kamala Harris's campaign.
Well, it is really, the more I hear about this guy, I'm shaking my head. Before we let you go, Tony, obviously right now is such a serious time. Look at what's happening with Israel bracing, for what looks like an imminent attack from Iran. How concerning is this? And also, given what we're just talking about, can you imagine if it was Kamala Harris and Tim Walz in the White House?
Well, that's part of the problem. We don't know who's actually running the White House right now. We've talked about that before. And what's notable right now is the White House twice has went out and said publicly the attack is imminent. Well, it's not. And I said on the record last time we spoke, it's not going to happen. What's happening right now is they are being reinforced by the Russians. The Russians, over the past week, have delivered S-400 anti-aircraft missiles, the most modern in the world, which is defensive. But more importantly, they've given them the Kinzhal hypersonic missile, which is offensive. That thing is something that's been used against the Ukrainians. It's a very effective offensive weapon. Oh, by the way, it's nuclear capable. So I think the Iranians are really just kind of taking a step back and trying to assess how best to arm themselves with Russian weapons. The Russians are their ally, and go about doing an attack on a time of their choosing. And I think it's still coming. I think they're just hanging back a little bit to figure out how best to do it at a time when we're not prepared for it. Right now, we did send forward Aegis cruisers, a bunch of new Patriot batteries, the F-22. I think we're postured to do something. But right now, I think the Iranians want to be better prepared to defend against or actually conduct offensive operations when they're ready.
Wow. Scary stuff. Thank you, Tony.
Yep.
We really appreciate it. Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer with Project Sentinel. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.